to Breaking the Grade. Hello, educators. Breaking the Grade here with our multi-talented, multifaceted friend and colleague, Daniel Stedman. Daniel has been breaking through the education space by creating the first ever writing and micro-journalism platform for kindergartners through middle school. Together with Daniel, let's dig deeper into how we can raise a generation of writers who are also critical thinkers. His platform can help address the challenges we're facing with disinformation today. Daniel is an example of a seasoned entrepreneur, a media mogul who is starting another company. So this conversation is guaranteed to be super helpful as you navigate your own entrepreneurial journey. Let's bring on my co-host, John Gamba, and Daniel.
Hello, Daniel.
Thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
Fellas, how's everybody today?
Great.
Good. All right, Daniel. We're going to get straight into it because your journey to Pressto, your current company, is an interesting one. And like most journeys as an entrepreneur, it is not a straight path. So give us kind of a brief introduction into how you got going and your path.
All right. So we got to go way back in time. We go back 20 years, but I'll keep it brief. Cool. My brother Scott and I launched a little digest size magazine in New York City. It's called the L magazine, like signifying the train connecting Brooklyn and downtown, Williamsburg and the East Village. And out of that enterprise came outdoor movies in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, music festival called Northside, a tech conference, a culinary symposium, and then we also launched Brooklyn Magazine. And the whole constellation of businesses was acquired in 2015. And then two things really led to Pressto, or should I save this? No, I'm just going to keep going.
Roll.
As the founder of Brooklyn Magazine, I had wanted to get more involved in some of the underserved communities all across Brooklyn. I mean, every language you can imagine is spoken in Brooklyn. And so I went, the most natural thing for me was to volunteer in some high school journalism programs. And I just found that one after another, they were non-existent. I went to James Madison High School, where Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, all three graduated high school, and found that their high school newspaper was non-existent. And I didn't exactly have the wherewithal to solve this problem. But a couple years later, after my business had been acquired, my son Graham was in kindergarten, and I volunteered to start up an elementary school newspaper. This was also in those complicated years in America with fake news and disinformation and a lot of divisiveness and confusion. And
we're past the complicated years?
Well,
hold on.
Not exactly.
We'll get into that later.
I'm trying to be apolitical. Okay. But that was when I got the chance to talk to parents and teachers and the principal and superintendent. And as the founder of Brooklyn Magazine, I had a strong friendship with Eric Adams, who is now the mayor, and got this audacious idea that potentially we could help millions of kids or tens of millions of kids by using technology in an innovative way, rather than focusing on this elementary school newspaper at one school. And so Pressto was born.
Okay. John, let me tell you something about our friend Daniel that you might not know that would be near and dear to your heart because of your son. At age 23, he was invited to the Berlin International Film Festival with a short film celebration. And tell us what happened there in Berlin.
Well, so I wrote this script about this boy coming out of the closet as a homosexual. And I thought it would be the most interesting, and so it was, the script was for a 5-year-old kid. It was almost impossible to cast this role. It took me like 3 years to find a family, to find the right kid to do it. And so I made Celebration. It's really short. It's like 3 minutes long, has one line of dialogue. I am a homosexual. And it went to Berlin, it went to Cannes, it played over 100 different film festivals, and was really an amazing experience for me. I went on to make a bunch of other films. None of them had any of the acclaim that the first one had. Maybe 2 of them were better, but it's hard, some hit, some don't. The better one, nothing that I made had anywhere near the acclaim of that first film. But I thought I was going to be a filmmaker. And really the magazine was my brother's kind of idea and dream and passion. And I went along for the ride, to help him get it off the ground. And I got swept into that maelstrom, which was amazing. I mean, no regret about that.
That is amazing. And this really does hit home. This weekend, Daniel, my son graduated from Penn with a dual degree in Wharton with a marketing degree and in cinema studies, where he's interested in pursuing a career in filmmaking and specifically in screenwriting. So that story is amazing. He and I have had a lot of conversations on what's next. He did go to Penn and Cannes as his study abroad program and is just an absolute crazy when it comes to, wanting to pursue this craft. And he wrote a full feature film for his honors thesis that chronicles the fall of Saigon in 1975 and features his great grandfather, who was one of the last diplomats off the roof on that helicopter, if you remember that scene. And
of course.
And the story goes, a lot of inside jabber on, how kind of the behind the scenes story on the fall of Saigon, not exactly what the U.S. government would want us to know.
Right.
But one of the questions I have for you is, what advice would you give yourself now that you look back on Celebration and you look back on, and maybe even JJ, my son, who's thinking about pursuing a career in filmmaking?
Easy answer, which is like, not do it for the fun of it. That's too trite. But like, make art, make films, and when they're done, make another. I spent too much time. Well, like when my first film was a success, I ended up spending a year marketing it, which I don't really regret that decision. But on my next film sucked, and I spent a year marketing that film. And then I made another short film and I tried to market it and like it wasn't good. And so what I came to decide as, on the artist side of me and the artistic endeavors that I do, is it's hard enough to do something and finish it. And so I really believe, like, as an artist, whether that's a writer or a screenwriter or a filmmaker, musician, whatever, or an entrepreneur or a coder or a hacker, it's like set out to accomplish a goal and finish it. That, I would say, on average takes about 3 years. And then do it again and do it again and do it again and do it again. And don't get too swept up into the marketing or success of it, because that's out of your hands. Even if you're a salesperson, same with a salesperson. Do the work, make the phone calls. It's out of your control if people, what happens. So do the thing that's under your control, which is do the work, get it done.
I also happened to celebrate my own 30th reunion this weekend. So I actually met up with a lot of my friends from college, some of which are in the entertainment business. And I asked them the same question, what advice and they gave the same exact advice to Daniel. They said, the advice is write, and then write again. Just keep writing. Don't fall in love with your own ideas. Continue to dream, but really kind of the 10,000 hours, you really, really, really need to write and write a lot and have those experiences. And it's sometimes tough when you're a parent, right? When you have somebody who's dreaming and saying, well, I'll probably invite my mom to the Oscars when I get my first. I'm like, dude, you got a lot to do, right? It's a great script and you're on to some great things, but man, the paradox of humility and will, right?
And if he's lucky, it'll take him a long time. And if he gets it too quickly, it might not be the best thing for the long, like if he's lucky, there'll be some good years. There'll be some bad years. And maybe at a certain point, there'll be some great recognition. And then at a certain point, he'll have the realization that we have, which is, none of it matters as much as your relationships with family and friends and all that. But
and that was the message of Ken Burns, who was the commencement speaker, which is for all the incredible legacy and the legend of Ben Franklin, who his latest documentary was featured, is that he was a flawed man, and that he died recognizing his failures and died recognizing that he could have done more. And I think that's a really incredible message as well.
Right. So, fellas, we've got an audience out there. I know you guys are having a conversation, which is always fantastic to watch happen. But we've got an audience out there and who I think at this point, might be saying to themselves, how can I relate what John or Daniel is saying to my own journey? And, I guess, can we break it down for entrepreneurs? Take what you've been talking about, especially Daniel, in terms of, your journey, and just, speak to the entrepreneurs out there directly, whatever they're doing, like you said, and give it to them in a couple sentences of this is how you can do it. And at the end, whenever the end is, you can look back and say, I did good.
I don't know where to begin on that, but I would say, you got to listen to your community, you got to listen to your customers, and you got to listen to yourself and to your heart. And that's like probably, and your team.
Mm-hmm.
And those are probably the biggest tug of wars. That's all the tug of wars. That's everything. Here at Pressto, we have an internal debate. Should Pressto be focused on making the writing experience fun so that we can get a huge amount of engagement? Or should we be focused on tools that help improve kids' writing? And without giving away the answer, I mean, I am going to give away the answer. I push us towards the engagement side of things, because there's tons of great pedagogy, there's tons of great curriculum, there's lots of, but the problem is there's no engagement, there's no stickiness, it's not fun. So you create an incredible writing curriculum, but if you can't get any kid to use it, it's not going to be all that effective in making them better writers. So I think that what Pressto has shown that it can do uniquely well is spark kids' imaginations and creativity. And so if we can scale that up to 100,000 kids or 1 million kids, then we can layer in the pedagogy. But back to just to generalize this.
Yeah.
You do have to listen to yourself and your own heart and your own intention. And that's why it's really important, I think, for entrepreneurs to write out their values, even as early as possible, although be flexible, because within your first 12 months, they'll probably change. But, remember why you got in on this project in the first place. If it's just to make money, I don't have any opinion about that, but follow your heart, follow what you really believe in, but you got to listen to your team. You got to try to surround yourself with smarter people. Listen to your customers, because they're the ones who are going to be using your product and buying your product. So they're right. Your team is right. But you also got to listen to yourself if you're trying to do something unique and something that nobody's ever done before, or you're creating a market. If you're creating a market, then your customers don't really know. And there's the whole Steve Jobs analogy about the iPad. He had to really kind of him and his team had to go rogue and build something that nobody really knew they needed. So I'd say, I don't think there's an answer. I just think you got to get in there. You got to find that tug of war, and you got to grab a rope, and you got to pull hard.
So I really love Pressto. I love the critical thinking. I love the writing competencies. I love this Socratic method in using evidence to substantiate an argument. It's awesome. I really love it. But let's get real, and let me ask a really important question. We know in the K-12 space that there's a mental health crisis, like hair on fire. Post-pandemic, systemic inequities, especially for the most underrepresented students. Are we in a civics crisis right now?
Yeah. Well, we talk about so first of all, civics isn't taught. I think you can look at the world and say there's a lack of civility, and I think, do those go hand in hand? Civics isn't being taught and there's no civility. I know that that's a little bit of a semantic wordplay there, but yeah.
No, I want to weigh on that, because I 100% agree. We started as a family a new program at Penn called the Red and Blue Exchange. You're calling it civics and civility. We call it competency and content. That we think that it's just as important to teach the competencies of communication, seeking to understand before being understood, trying to find common ground in an argument, not allowing things to be personal. That's an art in and of itself, especially in today's political discourse, right? But it's also important to think about content at the University of Pennsylvania. Not that it's overly progressive or overly blue. One of our founders, my father, talks a lot about how important red content, not necessarily Trump content or any political figure, but conservative, the classic conservative principles may not be proliferating on campus as much as it could, so that we can put these competencies and the civility, as you call it, to work. So I think there's a blend of both. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think ideally you would have every kid take every hot button issue and write about it from both perspectives. There's no real right and wrong. Blue isn't right any more than red is right or wrong. I have my own personal take on things, but kids should be able to understand all sides of an argument, and they can choose, and they should choose passionately which one they agree with, but it would really be a more healthy world if they could at least understand where people are coming from. And hopefully, now Presto in itself isn't unique in this space, but what's cool about Presto is that doing a writing project is very easy. And so it would be easy to take a hot topic and say, well, you know what, write about this, and we want you to do it from both perspectives. That's like civics 101. Well, I shouldn't say it's not an educator.
Go ahead, John.
We're going to get more into Presto. Definitely. We are basically at the halfway mark. We love Presto. There are other breakers in the education space that we love as well. We met a bunch at ASU GSV. So we're going to bring up Anna. Anna on our team got the chance to interview a bunch of different folks for our segment called Big Breaks. There's Anna live from Brazil. So Anna, introduce us to our latest Big Breaker.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Well, I had an amazing time talking to so many great people back in San Diego for our Big Breaks. And talking about Big Breaks, this is a special segment where we feature companies that made the Elite 200 for the ASU GSV. And our goal is to feature them here. They have just started a company, or they have an idea and they are already breaking the grade. So they are changing the status quo about the way we learn, about the way we teach, and about the way we grow as professionals and human beings. So check out this big break from Abbas Moledina and UMaker.
My name is Abbas Moledina. I'm the co-founder of umaker.com. I'm a breaker because we hope to re-establish the way in which writing takes place. Writing is a skill and not everybody has it. And with our artificial intelligence tool, we hope to make that available to everyone so that everybody can write freely. What led me to become a breaker? I guess it was just the fact that I was pretty tired with my life in investment banking and the opportunity to start my own company was something that I couldn't say no to. In life, you only have a few opportunities, so I thought I'd grab it with both hands. My company is breaking the grade by allowing students who are otherwise left behind academically. With our artificial intelligence tool, anybody can write freely, and it's no longer a skill reserved for the masses. It's available to everybody. The challenge that almost broke me was when we first started. We weren't an artificial intelligence tool. We were a different company, which just failed, unfortunately. And it was only until we pivoted. But the previous iteration of UMaker is what nearly broke me, but thankfully didn't break me completely. My future plans to break the education industry include just continuing to roll out our artificial intelligence tool to the masses. Right now we've made 10,000 active users. We hope, God willing, by the end of the year, 100,000. Next year, 1 billion. My advice to a fellow entrepreneur: if you have the opportunity to move forward with your own endeavor, certainly grab it with both hands. Realize that any setback isn't going to define you. And then finally, with regards to fundraising, you may get a lot of no's, and that's okay, because every no brings you just that one step closer to getting a yes. So that's the journey.
I love it. I've watched that before. So much easier said than done. Then every no gets you one step closer to a yes. Very easy to say.
Yeah.
But true. Anna, what were your thoughts on your follow-up conversation you had with the boss?
Yeah, so I relate to this personally, especially because when he talks about the writing skills and thinking about the people that have the English as a second language. So this can be like writing well can be tricky. So having an AI that can help us do that, like I can relate to that. My first language is Portuguese, so I can relate to that. I think it's amazing idea that they come up with.
Cool. Thank
It's
you.
interesting. Yeah, Anna, that's awesome. I relate to that as well. You know, we think about big breaks as in breaking through, but we also think about the strength in being broke in.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of also, if I can, bring it back to Daniel. You know, was there that moment, you know, when Josh earlier in the segment said, break it down for entrepreneurs, and really, I would say it's that embracing of 9 lives in the entrepreneurial journey, and maybe when you died 3 deaths, keeping going and being okay with embracing the fact that you shouldn't give up. Was there a moment with you on your entrepreneurial journey that you were broken to the point where you needed to really think about what it would take for you to keep going?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because, Anna, you asked me this question when we were in San Diego, and I forgot about, there really was one moment that like almost broke us. And it was, I guess, it was around, I mean, we were 2 people for quite a while. It was myself and my co-founder, Pao, who was the technical co-founder, and he built, you know, he wireframed the prototype, and he built the prototype, and he built the product, and I hustled to get customers. And then we brought on a new back-end developer, and our work kind of came to a halt. And then one of our advisors jumped in to help get things going, and, you know, worked with some product management tools like Jira just to get everybody, and things did not progress. And it was almost like the harder we tried and the more support we got, the slower things went. I can't think of the word for this, but there is like there's a theory around this, and it happens all the time. And then you bring in another manager, and you bring in an executive, and we basically had to just like hit the reboot button all together. And then we got very lucky, and and then we grew from 2 people to 12 people. But like, but there was about 3 months where, I mean, I sort of hate to admit this, but I'll admit it because I'm an oversharer by nature.
With friends. Yeah.
It was like, what's that?
You're with friends. It's okay.
Yeah. There was like 3 months where nothing developed. Our product didn't develop, and I'm like, why aren't we shipping code? We should be shipping code every 2 weeks. We should be launching every 2 weeks. And I don't exactly know how to prevent. I don't have any advice about preventing that from. I mean, of course, I learned my lesson, but I think the real lesson there was just, I mean, man, it's like 9 lives. You just got to push on, and you got to believe, and you got to believe, and you got to believe and believe and believe. And when everybody tells you you're crazy or that, you just gotta, I think founders really have to be uniquely optimistic and positive and believers and a little bit nuts.
Or very nuts, but
that insanity can just sometimes drive you over what can be very, very large speed bumps or square-shaped speed bumps.
Okay, so you've gone over these speed bumps, right? And tell us where you are today with Pressto. What iteration are we in, and exactly what are you looking at as the CEO, as the founder, whatever your title is, doesn't matter at this point because you're helping run a thing.
What live are you on?
Yeah.
I'd say we're on life number 1 because I wouldn't mind having like 8 or 9 more.
Good.
And every day kind of feels like this is day 1.
Right. Good.
But so we launch in August, which is very exciting. As I said, we've grown from a team of 2 to 12, and I think I calculated up all of our advisors, and it's like about 45 people who are like really involved and part of the greater team, but we're like 12 people are our core team. I'd say that some of our greatest victories are bringing in some people who are experienced in ed tech. Where are we today? We're super focused on our August launch. Everything seems to be going really well. I guess I'd say we're very, very lucky. We have a great and experienced product team. We've got 4 engineers who are now reporting to POW. So we've got a great engineering team. And I guess sort of like one anecdote I'll share, which I think is unique to the ed tech space, is that we grew pretty organically from 0 to about 4,000 active users. And then I was able, through my relationships and my hustle, to get the ear of New York City Department of Education. And we signed up a district that is 50 schools and 29,000 students. And at that point, I was effectively tackled by everybody on the team. And they're like, no more customers. Don't show the product to anybody else. Well, because what we're going to release in August is going to be so much better. Don't show it to anybody. Close the doors on the website. We basically went back into stealth mode, focused on hiring developers and developing the product and working with the designer and UI, UX, and all the things that go into building a product. And so we're just single-mindedly focused on building the product, launching in August. There will be some marketing and, customer development between now and August. I guess just randomly I'll throw in here, one thing that was super helpful to me was reading the book, The Mom Test.
I just heard about that. Yeah.
Great book. Fun, easy book, and a little bit mind-blowing for somebody who hasn't done customer development. And if you don't know what customer development is, I'm not going to say it here. Read the Mom Test.
So before we dive deep into the Mom Test, because we could spend a lot of time on that, Anna was a school teacher. So can you talk directly to Anna, the school teacher, when she was, about why Presto would be important to be in her classroom?
Sure. Anna, this is important stuff. Presto makes learning to write more fun for kids and more easy for teachers. How? This is what our kids do. These are little Prestos. And why is this so fun and easy? So while kids are writing, while kids are typing, our software uses advanced algorithms, artificial intelligence to give kids real-time, personalized, formative feedback on what they're writing. Now, remember, we started off as a student journalism platform. So our goal at that time was to show kids objectivity and subjectivity, help them become better writers by showing them their use of the active voice, the use of the passive voice, identifying how many sources they've quoted, and always being encouraging, saying, great job quoting one source, but strong journalism requires 3 sources. The idea was through project-based learning and using some basic tenets of cognitive behavior therapy to help kids come to their own understanding by through project-based learning of what's an opinion, what's a fact, how to identify disinformation. Our real aha moment as a company was speaking with teachers like you and finding that they were using Presto in their classroom over and over and over again and across a variety of different subjects, not just for student journalism, but as a way of getting kids excited and motivated to write. So as a business, we realized we had the opportunity to address a much deeper problem, getting kids excited about writing, teaching writing, and of course, a much, much, much larger market. And so that's what Presto's evolved into, making learning to write more fun for kids and easier for teachers.
Before Professor Gamba, weighs in here, I want teacher Anna to weigh in.
Wait, I want to show the accessibility is also really important. This is a standard piece of printer paper. So this is available to any kid. This is not for private schools. And what they do with it is, they type, and like I said, our technology gives them real-time feedback, but kids just really love this fun format. We call it a Presto or a zine. So I just want to wrap up that thought.
Teacher Anna, are you buying it?
Yeah, for sure. I would buy it really quickly. And I'll tell you, the biggest challenge we have in a classroom is having kids being engaged in what you are trying to teach them, especially because they don't see the use of this in real life. So that's the biggest challenge that we have. They don't engage because they don't see a use. Why do I have to learn that? So when you are teaching them how to write, and they can write about things they relate to, or they can interview someone, they can talk about topics they relate to, they like about. This changes completely the scene of let's learn how to write. This becomes a fun task. So if I was in classroom again, I would definitely do it for my students without any doubt.
Professor Gamba, are you investing in it?
Well, we've had conversations with Daniel, and we love Presto here at the Graduate School of Education, Penn's Graduate School of Education. But during this segment, I've thought, Daniel, more and more about my interest has been shifting. I've seen it as an awesome writing tool, and I've seen it as a fun and engaging way to write. But as we've spoken today, I'm starting to sense some social emotional learning. Mm-hmm. When I graduated from college, someone asked me, what did you learn most? And I said, I learned how to write. I didn't learn how to really write until college. To build the skill or the competency of writing early on in a young student and have them like it and then build self-confidence through it, I think is really a pathway to being successful in school and then in college and career, whatever they choose to do. So I see self-confidence in this. I see self-awareness in this. I see, you have to really determine what your value proposition is, but I see waves of SEL being being thrust into the Presto solution.
So what does Daniel do with that feedback? Because I'm thinking, as you're saying this, John, I'm like, Daniel should be writing this down. He should be going back to his investors and saying, we've now got an SEL tool. Or no, hold on. Like, how do you take the feedback and say, I got to stay on my path, but let me put this idea to the side? How does he take your feedback?
You asking me? If you're asking me,
Yes.
first of all, he just throws it in the garbage because I always have terrible ideas. No, I think what Daniel does is what he's done in other sessions that we've had, which is process insight, process information, because you could also argue that SEL is very dangerous right now out there. It's incredibly political. It's incredibly red, blue. Oh my gosh, are we shaming races, and are we teaching, things that are inappropriate that only parents should teach? So my comments. On the other hand, there's $190 billion of ESSER money out there, and SEL is named in the appropriation. So there's something to developing SEL skills, and why not show how by using Presto, not only are you making writing fun, building competencies in writing, but also developing self-awareness, self-confidence, positive relationship building. I've seen the Prestos or the zines where you're going door to door and you're actually in a service-based learning mode. These are all competencies that students need to learn. That's all part of what the movement of college and career readiness for 21st century learning is all about.
Other than throwing his idea in the trash, which is cockamamie, what are you going to do with it?
Me?
Now to you. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say, I mean, there's also something that has been coming up more and more is this future of work facet of Presto, which is that the creator economy and understanding how to generate content, distribute content is really going to be, or maybe already is, super critical to the future of work, and almost an expectation as the creator economy grows, and as generating content is just part of what kids do in their lives. Presto, I think, has a really important role to play in that space, and helping kids to do it in an effective way, and to have like a mentally healthy relationship with the content that they're consuming and also creating. So SEL's always been kind of at the heart of what we hope to do. And I would say, like, the first teacher who used Presto, PS 172 in Brooklyn, first their students used it. They wrote about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire of and I can't think of the year, but that is why we have emergency exits in all of our buildings. So that was like a history lesson, a bit of a civics lesson, gender. There's a lot of stuff going on with the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. But then they used Presto for a poetry unit. And then these were fifth grade students. They used Presto to write about their feelings leaving fifth grade and leaving the comfort of that very beloved teacher in that very beloved school and going on to a new school. So Presto was used for SEL very, very early on. I mean, our very first customer. And so
let me just say too, you nailed it. And I'm going to share an anecdote, and I know we're running out of time, but it's so interesting. Through this graduation experience this weekend, my 13-year-old, there was a lot of comments like, hey, you saw all corners of the University of Pennsylvania. What do you think? And my son looked us dead in the eye and said, man, I love Penn. But I'm not going to college. I'm going to make bank by the time I'm 16, and I'm going to be a creator, and we're all like horrified, kind of. But, the creator economy, and he's already thinking about entrepreneurship, and he's thinking about YouTube channels, and he's thinking about the power of creating. And why do I need this ivory tower, highfalutin University of Pennsylvania when I could potentially do this myself? So you're on it, Daniel, in terms of early customers, SEL, inspiring a love of writing, teaching the competency of writing, because, hey, Ben, you're not going to be a creator if you can't write. If you can't express yourself in the spoken or written word, you've got no chance. So keep working on that in terms of the advice that I give Ben, but it feeds into to your value proposition and what you're trying to do at Pressto. So I applaud you on sticking to your guns and doing something that's really different.
For this guy. Go ahead, Dan.
Josh. The answer is stick with what we're doing, because if we can get 1 million or 5 million or 10 million kids inspired, sparked, and excited about writing, what we can plug into that is there is just, we can plug in a civics curriculum, we can plug in Amplify, we can plug in Teachers College, we can plug anything into Pressto if we're successful in sparking kids' imaginations and creativity and get that engagement up and get them making writing a daily exercise. So I think with that goal in mind, SEL, future of work, civics, it's all possible.
And journalism. So for this guy who got a master's in broadcast journalism, I applaud what you're doing. I know that's how you started, and clearly there's all these places to go. And I will tell you guys, being totally honest, my broadcasting skills have not been stretched as much as they were on this show, with doors opening. Anna's staying on. We thought Anna was leaving, and happy to keep Anna on. Maybe we've got a new segment with teachers. We're talking about John's kids. We've gone through his whole family, his kids. We got to start talking about his grandkids at some point. But no, this was an amazing show, and this is what we're here to do, which is break the show anyway and do what is best for Daniel, and for the other entrepreneurs in education that are listening. So Daniel, you've been an inspiration, I think, on this show, and you'll continue to be. We are big fans of it. I'm a big fan because of the journalism. So if there's anything I can do to help, and I know Anna and John feel the same way, and we've got a community of breakers who are here to help. So thanks for joining the show, and we really appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks for having me on, all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks for listening, breakers. Next time on Breaking the Grade.